Hello everyone, thank you for watching this presentation about Unity certification. But before I get started, let me introduce myself. My name is Glauber Torres and I have been working with Microsoft Stack for professional development since 1996. I have been also developing games for mobile and web since 2012 using Unity as an independent developer. I came from Canada in 2018 from Brazil, and I am also a former student from the video game programming course at La Salle College. Okay, so the first question that comes to our minds when we talk about certifications in general is why? Why should I take this exam? And there are a couple of reasons you should consider that. First, in my opinion, setting the milestone to pass an exam is an excellent self-assessment tool. Even if you don't have experience with that technology in the particular case, it's very good to have this commitment since you choose to work with IT. I'm sorry, there is no way back. You have to keep studying like forever. And there is another thing. In my opinion, I believe the preparation journey itself has a greater benefit than the prize. For instance, getting the certification, because it's going to give you a very good feeling when you see yourself able to solve issues that you were not able to solve them before, and it's going to be very important. For instance, in the marketplace, you're gonna face a lot of bugs, issues, and so on. And finally, it's going to have, speaking of which, in the marketplace, it's going to help you to stand out from the crowd. If you have this certification, it's going to shine in your resume for sure. Okay, let's talk about the exam. First things first, you really have to have a very good mastery about the basics of Unity. And because of that, I came up with this Google Docs roadmap list. I'm gonna open over here and feel free to use for your studies. As you can see, I have listed the 6 sections. I have separated all the 6 sections of the exam, starting with programming core interactions, working the art pipeline, developing application systems, programming for scene and environment design, optimizing for performance and platforms, and finally working in professional software development teams. Each section, I have listed a couple of Unity learning links. I highly recommend you watching those training videos to make sure you have a good mastery about the basics of Unity. And for this presentation, I have prepared a couple of demos, and let's get started with them. In this demonstration, I would like to talk about Bitwise Operators. Have you ever noticed in Unity we have in our hands the possibility to use up to 32 layers? The reason for that is because each layer corresponds to a specific bit in a 32-bit system. The first 8 layers are reserved by Unity for internal usage, and the rest of them we can use as we wish. Let's say, for example, in my camera, in the Killingmask property, I have configured to display only the UI layer, which corresponds to my built-in layer 5. But since we are dealing with a system that starts in 0, the built-in layer 5 actually is in the 6th position in this 32-bit system. And it's gonna give me the binary number 100000. And notice this line over here. This operation is called Bitwise Shift. It's a Bitwise Shift operation. You can perform this code in C#, and what it's basically telling you, it's actually saying take 1 bit and move 6 positions to the left. And once you run this code, it's gonna return to you 64 in base 10, which corresponds to the equivalent number in base 2. Now, let's say in our camera, we have configured to display 2 layers in parallel, nothing more, nothing less. And this configuration is gonna give us this binary number. And this binary number corresponds to 33 in decimal. Just in case, if you run this line of code, it's gonna give you 33. It's gonna return this integer 33. But let's see how it works in a better way in an example. I came up with this application called Bitwise Operators, and in my main camera, for starters, I'm gonna use the default and UI layer. I came up with a group of layers that I have created by myself, the red, green, and blue layers. Those layers are gonna correspond to those cubes. As you can see, the red cube is configured in the red layer, and the same goes for the rest of them. Let's run this application and let's see what we have here. Each checkbox, the idea here is that each checkbox is going to configure the Killingmask property for my camera. For now, as you can see previously, we just have the default and the UI layer selected. And if I check the red checkbox, it's gonna show me some interesting information over here. But before that, let's see what we have right now in the Killingmask property. As you can see, it has selected the red layer to display the red cube. And this operation is telling us the previous state for the camera, which corresponded to this binary number. That was the previous state for the Killingmask of our camera. And since our red layer is in this position, let me show you over here. The red layer is in the 8th position, which is going to give me this binary number. And this application has the idea to combine layers in order to set the Killingmask property. And that's gonna be our final state for the Killingmask property. And we can play around with the other checkboxes. Let's see what happens if we check the blue checkbox, and considering that the blue checkbox is the 10th layer, let's see what happens. So that was the previous state of the Killingmask property of my camera. And since we're gonna add this binary number to our Killingmask, that's gonna be the new binary number for the Killingmask. Usually you don't use this advanced concept for working with Killingmask, but imagine a situation that you want to control the visibility of a lot of objects, game objects in your scene. You could leverage tags, you could loop all those specific game objects with specific tags, but that's not going to be a very performant way to control the visibility of all of them. The most performant way could be the usage of Killingmasks, but there is no way you're gonna escape from working with Bitwise Operators in order to combine in a programmatic way the visibility of the layers. Let's see the code that is acting behind the scenes in those checkboxes. I have my canvas over here, and I have those checkboxes in this hierarchy, and I have this toggle layer script, which is over here. Let's open that in Visual Studio. First, what I have here, I have this layer name, which is a very ordinary property, a string property, which is going to correspond, which is going to give me in the toggle, for example, the toggle red, it's configured with the red value in the property, and the same goes for the other toggles. And let's keep going. I'm gonna cache the reference of my main camera in the start function, and that's the most interesting part of this code, the update camera layers method. This method is going to get the layer name, the decimal number correspondent to my layer name. Remember, for example, if we are using the layer red, it's going to give me the value 8. So the layer value over here is going to receive the value 8, which is going to be returned by this built-in Unity function. I pass the name of the layer, a string, and it's going to return the numeric correspondent value. And then I'm going to create this variable, which is going to perform that bitwise shift operation that we talked about previously. And what I'm gonna do over here, I'm gonna convert this value, which is basically the value that I had in a decimal form. I'm gonna convert in a binary just to display in this calculator in the bottom. And let's keep moving. I'm gonna do the same operation for the camera, just to convert the current Killingmask into a binary number. And then I check if the toggle in the occasion, if it's checked, then I'm gonna run this bitwise OR operation represented by this pipe character. It's going to use the shifted bit value that I calculated over here, and it's going to perform the computation between both of them, and this value is going to be added into this binary number. And that's the reason I can take this binary number, for instance, and then I can add this other one, and finally I can have this result in binary. That's because the bitwise OR operation. And later on I'm gonna just perform some visual implementation to display what's going on over here. If I check a value, it's going to show adding plus the layer number. If I remove, it's gonna show subtracting the correspondent layer. And that's what happens in the else bracket of this code. If I'm unchecking the toggle, it's going to perform two bitwise operations. The AND, represented by a single %, and by this NOT operation. And what I'm doing here, first I am converting the layer shift value binary number. If where I have 0, it's going to be 1, and when I have 1, it's going to be 0. And if you perform a negation and a multiplication in the sequence represented by the AND operator, it's going to subtract this value from the Killingmask. And that's what I'm gonna show in the label over here. And finally, that's the value that I'm gonna have in the Killingmask. And the other lines of code are just to give some intelligence to this calculator. This concept seems to be a little bit overwhelming, but it's very important to understand this concept for taking the exam. Another important thing in this exam is to know how to use a technique called object pooling. And the idea behind that is to avoid, at least as much as possible, instantiating game objects in the runtime. And instead, what you're gonna do, you're gonna use them from a pool of pre-created game objects. And that's what we're gonna do in this example. For this demo, I'm gonna use those nice free spaceships from Asset Store, and I just wanted to share with you the link of this asset because it seems to be very cool. So let's go to Unity, and before running the application, I would like to invite you to pay attention in the hierarchy window, because as I keep firing projectiles from my spaceship, you're gonna see those the instantiation of those prefabs here in this window, and let's see how it works. And I'm instantiating here this bullet prefab, and the problem with that is, as I keep instantiating and destroying those game objects, it can have a very negative impact in the performance of your game, especially if we have a lot of players performing this operation. And that's exactly what we're gonna fix using the pooling of those game objects. And the first thing I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna create a script called object pooling, and I'm gonna create a couple of properties just to reference what's gonna be the prefab we want to instantiate for to kick off the pool. So I'm gonna create a serializable field called, it's gonna be a game object, and it's gonna be named as object to pool, for example. And I'm gonna initialize with null. And I'm gonna create another serializable field called pool size. I'm gonna initialize with 0. And in the start method, I'm gonna create those, I'm gonna instantiate actually those game objects. For that, I'm gonna create this loop. Pool size, the increment of I, and I'm gonna create an instance receiving the result of the instantiate method, and I'm gonna use the object to pull. I'm gonna give a name to this instance because I would like to have a unique name for each of them, and I'm gonna concatenate the name itself with my counter. Yeah. And for starters, I'm gonna set this game object as inactive, passing this false to the setActive method. And also I want to set the parent transform dot parent to the game object that's gonna hold this script. And let's do that. Let's go back to Unity and let's create a blank game object, and let's call it like bullet pulling, and let's configure this script for this bullet pulling game object. I'm gonna drag and drop here. I'm gonna pass the prefab, which is the projectile, which is this guy over here, and let's create the pool size of 10, and let's play and let's see if it works. Okay, as you can see, we have 10 inactive game objects for now. Okay, that's our first step, but there are more things we have to do. Let's go back to Visual Studio. In order for this object pooling to work as we expect, we have to implement a first in, first out system. And thankfully in C# there is a class called queue that does the job. And we're gonna create a queue over here. And we have to pass a type that's gonna be in the list. It's gonna receive game object, and we're gonna call this queue like pool, and we're gonna instantiate this queue right away. Okay, and since we have our collection, the next thing we have to do, we have to insert the instance of our game objects inside this pool. And for that, I can call a method, the pool object in the pool collection, called enqueue, and I'm gonna pass the object itself, instance, and that's it. I don't need this update method really, so I'm gonna get rid of that. And now we really need two methods. One for creating, like the same behavior you have when you instantiate the object. So you have to bring an active game object to be used. So I'm gonna create a public game object, because we have to return the game object from the pool, and I'm gonna call as spawn, And there is one overload of the instantiate method that I'm really interested to replicate the same behavior, and that's the signature, the one that receives a position and a rotation. And that's what we're gonna do over here. We're gonna receive as parameter a position and the rotation. Okay. Just fixing the brackets. Okay. Sometimes I deal with those issues with IntelliSense. Now, the first thing we have to check is we have to ask the pool if there is content inside of that or not. So if the count is 0, we are gonna return null, and otherwise we are gonna return an object from the pool. And the method for doing this job is called dequeue. And in the moment we dequeue an item from a queue, it's not going to be present in the queue anymore. Just keep that in mind. And now I'm gonna apply the position and the rotation as well. Instance dot transform rotation. Yeah. And now I would like to set the instance as active. True. Finally, we can return this object. Okay, so far so good. And we need another method for returning a game object to the pool. So I'm gonna create a method called return to pool. It's gonna receive a game object, and first we're gonna set this game object as inactive, and again you're gonna enqueue this object in our collection. Okay, nice. So let's go to the editor for now. What is the next step? The next thing we have to do, we have to consume those methods for enqueuing and dequeuing the objects. So basically what we have to do, we have to refactor the player controller class, the one responsible for instantiating the projectile, and also the opposite for the bullet class, the one responsible for destroying the object itself. So let's go to the player controller, and here in the bottom I have this shoot method, and as you can see over here, that's exactly what we don't want. We don't want to instantiate. And I'm gonna replicate the same behavior of the above line, but instead I'm gonna call a reference for our object pooling script, which, remember, is being used by our bullet pooling of game object, and now we have the reference over here. So we want to copy this name and we want to call the find method, and now we are able to get the reference for the object pooling script. And finally, we are able to call the spawn method. And remember, we are expecting the position and the rotation. So for doing that, because of that, I'm going to copy and paste both position and rotation, and now I am able to comment out this line. For the bullet script is over here, and as you can see, we don't want to destroy the game mail object anymore. We really want to do the same until here, and now we are able to call the method return tuple, passing the game mail object. Let's save all the changes and let's see what happens now. Let's play the game. Remember, we have all our 10 pre-created game objects in this pool, and look at that, pay attention over here. This is going to be very interesting. I'm gonna fire some projectiles, and as you can see, we don't have the instantiation and the destruction of the game objects. Instead, what we really have here, the behavior is basically just activating the game object of the moment, and we reposition the projectile based on the position of the spaceship. But it can be better. Let's improve a little bit this object pooling script by going back to our object pooling class. There is one thing we could do to make our lives easier, because take a look over here. It would be nice if we had a shorter path in order to have access to the object pooling class. And also imagine a situation where we would like to manage multiple pools, for instance for the explosion prefab as well. And for solving both issues, we really need to use a dictionary, and that's what I'm gonna do over here. I'm gonna create a static dictionary. And remember, when we work with dictionaries, we are basically dealing with a pair of key and value. For the key, I'm gonna use a string, and for the value, a reference for the object pooling. I'm gonna call this object as like pool dictionary, and I'm gonna instantiate right away. Now, I need a method to seek the item that I'm interested in the moment, and I'm gonna create a public static method that's gonna return a object pooling, and it's going to be my find method. And I'm gonna pass a parameter like pool name, and I just have to return the item from the collection. And that's it for this method. Now, in the method start, I need to include a reference of the object, and I'm gonna do that by calling the method add for the dictionary, and I'm gonna pass the name, and the name is gonna be the name of the object holding the reference for the script, in our case bullet pulling. For getting that, I'm gonna use GameObject.name and a reference of itself. Okay, that's it. We are good to go in order to refactor the player controller and also the bullet class. Just in case, I'm gonna comment out this line and I'm gonna get rid of this piece of code, and I'm gonna call the static method of the object pulling class the find method, and I'm gonna pass bullet pulling, and that's it. And we can do the same for the destroy method. I'm gonna comment out this line and I can get rid of this piece of code, and I can call the method, the static method find. Refactoring.find object pulling, my bad. Dot find bullet pulling, and that's it. Let's test on the editor, see if everything is okay. Let's run. Yeah, it seems to be working. And yeah, that's it for this demonstration, and let's keep going. One situation you might come across in the exam is your ability to deal with scriptable objects. The idea of this feature is to give you some freedom and flexibility in order to customize user interface or game objects as well. That's a very interesting approach to interact with artists too. But let's see how it works in an example. In this project I have this sticker, and I have a couple of controls here, for instance the picture, the name. I have also some values for attack and defense, and I really would like somehow a nice way to customize those controls. And that's how the scriptable objects come into the place. I'm gonna create first here in the scripts folder, I'm gonna create a script called sticker, and that's what is gonna represent our scriptable object. The first thing that you have to keep in mind when you are working with scriptable objects is that you're not going to use mono behavior, and because of that I'm gonna get rid of those methods, and I'm gonna inherit this class from scriptable object. Another important step, we need to customize, we need to decorate this class with a create asset menu. That's going to be a very important step when we are gonna go back to the editor, and we're gonna pass to the file name a parameter like new sticker, for instance, and in the menu name parameter we can populate with sticker. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna create a couple of properties in order to map those controls in our user interface. So first I'm gonna create this public string sticker name, a property for the picture, and the two final properties for attack and defense. Nice. Let's go back to the editor. Now I'm gonna create a folder called Scriptable Objects. And notice when I right click this folder and when I go to create, I have this sticker item. And I'm gonna create, for instance, a scriptable object called Mario. And look at that, in the inspector, I have those properties here, those same properties I have just created, and I'm gonna populate them right now. I have in this textures folder some pictures. I'm gonna drag and drop the picture of Mario, and I'm gonna create some random values over here. And that's it for this scriptable object. I'm gonna create another one. I'm gonna call it Weird Sonic. And a couple of random values here as well. Okay, so far so good. Now, I need a way to get those values inside my user interface over here. And for that, I'm gonna create another script called sticker loader. And for this script, first I'm gonna drag and drop to my sticker UI. And for each control in this sticker UI, I want to create a reference in my sticker loader in order to perform this map between my property in the scriptable object and the control in my user interface. Let's go to our sticker loader and let's do that. I'm gonna create first my, let's see here, which control we can create first. Picture, for example. And picture, notice we have this raw image, and we would like to create a reference for that raw image. And I'm gonna create a serializable field for that. And I'm gonna call it like picture. First I have to give the type, raw image. And I'm gonna call it picture contour. And to solve this issue over here, I'm gonna hit Ctrl dot, and I'm gonna import this namespace in order to have access to the raw image class. Actually, it didn't import as a namespace. I'm gonna do that manually. Okay. Now we have to do the same for the other controls. In our case, name, attack value and defense value. And the type of the control is that we are really interested is text. So I'm gonna create again a couple of another serializable fields. name control, and finally attack control and defense control. Nice. And in the start function, I'm gonna create this link between those controls and the serializable object. But in order to do that, I also need a reference for the serializable object as well. And because of that, I'm gonna create another serializable field. Serializable. Actually, it's just sticker because it's the type of the class. And I can call it like my sticker, for instance. Cool. Before going on with this code in the start, let's just go back to the editor so we don't forget to create those mappings inside those properties. So I'm gonna drag and drop. Let's leave the sticker for the last. I'm gonna drag and drop the name control, the picture, the attack value, and the defense value. And finally, that's the moment we are gonna consume the scriptable object in our sticker loader. And the way we do that is like this. In the start method, I can simply map each control. For instance, name control dot text equals my sticker dot sticker name. Remember, we have those properties in our sticker class. And the same goes for the other controls. Picture control dot texture equals my sticker dot picture. Attack control dot text equals my sticker dot attack, and defense control dot text equals my sticker dot defense. And since they are integers, we have to convert them to a string. And it seems it's good to go. Let's go back to Unity and let's run the application. As you can see, it's loading properly its value from the scriptable object to the correspondent control. And let's try to use another scriptable object in our sticker loader. Let's use our weird Sonic in our sticker loader over here. Sorry, I was trying to drag and drop the texture. Actually, is the scriptable object. Yeah, there we go. And that's it. It's loading properly. And that's pretty much it for scriptable objects. since we are approaching the end of this presentation, I just wanted to share some final thoughts, starting with some additional resource that may help you in your pursuit for this certification. There is this official exam course offered by Unity. It's hosted on Coursera, but that's okay. You can totally trust this website. They offer a lot of official trainings from other companies as well. I have used it for myself, and in my personal opinion, this course can be very valuable, especially if you don't have like a great portfolio of games, a long experience developing games with Unity, because it's gonna give you a very important hands-on experience developing a game from scratch. But there is a catch, and I think you shouldn't rely just on this course for taking the exam, because there's gonna be a lot of missing points and sections that you have to cover on your own for sure, and keep that in mind. But I totally recommend this course as well. Also, there is this this book with focused totally on the exam. I have used it also for myself, and as you can see, I try to use as many resources as possible, and I really recommend you doing the same, because there's gonna increase your chances to pass for sure. But the same applies for this book. It's not going to cover everything. It's not, unfortunately, but it's gonna help cover some areas here and there, and yeah, it helps definitely. It definitely helps. And finally, there is this test prep offered by a company called Measure Up. This company, I have used their products for a long time. They offer exam preparations, simulations for other companies as well, like Microsoft, Oracle, and the quality of their products are very good. And I really recommend. This is by far the best resource I have used for myself, because it gives you a very close experience compared to what you are gonna face in the exam day. And they offer, if I'm not wrong, something like 90 questions. They have a lot of questions, and the good thing is you do the tests, and you have to the chance to check later on what you missed, and all the options, all the alternatives. They have very good very good explanations why the wrong alternatives are wrong and why the right is the correct. Yeah, this test prep I definitely recommend. And yeah, finally, about taking the exam, I have posted here a couple of links. First, the official exam page. You can go over there to find more informations in detail about each section, what you're gonna have to study. Also, here you have the link for the registration for the exam. You have basically two options. I'm not quite sure if in this pandemic moment we are all living, if they are offering the presential tests in their local test centers, because you have the option to take the exam at home. That's exactly what I have done for myself. There's gonna be a proctor watching you in the webcam all exam long, and there are a couple of restrictions, of course, like you are not supposed to have access to any electronic device, smartphone, etc. The place you're gonna take the exam has to meet some requirements, like you won't be allowed to have other people in the same room, you have to close the door, it must be a very quiet place, good lighting, and so on. And actually that was my first experience taking a certification exam at home, and that was very good. I really enjoyed that. I really recommend. And that's the end. Thank you so much for taking this time for watching this presentation. As you can see in the bottom, I'm posting here all the codes I have used for this demonstration, and I really hope somehow I can help you with these contents to pursue this certification. And that's it. Thank you so much and have a great day.